Good evening, all in Guyana and globally. Welcome to Coast to Coast Talk Back on a bright and sunshiny evening in Guyana. Today's topic is the environment and solid waste management, and I'm privileged to have my first panelist on screen in studio right now, Mr. Kemraj Parshram, Chief Executive Officer of the Environmental and Protection Agency. Kamraj, welcome to Coast, and thanks for accepting the invite.
Thank you, Mr. Hussein, and good evening to your listeners here in Guyana and in the diaspora.
Thank you very much. My technical coordinator this afternoon, and as usual, is Nicholas Samaru of 2000 Graphic Studios, for your designing of flyers, logos, invitations, brochures, and more. You could call him on 616-2514 or visit 2000 Graphic Studio on social media. Program Director W.R. Riaz, and today's edition comes with the kind compliments of Nalico Nafico with 17 branches nationwide. Dinesh Auto Spares at 41 Rub Street. Jordan and Emilia Radiator Works, Northeast Groove, The Verstelling, Little Diamond, NDC, and Danzy's Fashion Gallery and Auto Sales of New Amsterdam and East County. My other panelist, Mr. Walton Ryan, will join us shortly. But first, we will have a chat and discuss. If you have any issues, like I said earlier, you could have WhatsApped me on 644-1152, but you can put forward those comments, issues, queries on the live program. And if time permits, we will address those issues. If time does not permit, I certainly will get my panelists to respond, and I will respond to you. Kamraj, the Environmental Protection Agency in Guyana plays a very pivotal role. And sometimes many of us, including myself, are not aware of that role that is being played by the Environmental Protection Agency. I would ask you to give us an overview of the EPA activities in Guyana.
Sure. Thank you, Nazim, again, and good evening, listeners. So the Environmental Protection Agency was established by the Environmental Protection Act in 1996. And most of you probably would have heard or know of the famous Oh My Gold Mine spill, cyanide spill. And that prompted the establishment, the promulgation of the Environmental Protection Act, which then established the Environmental Protection Agency in 1996. Our mandate is a very broad mandate focusing on the environment, of course, and conservation issues. So it's basically to promote, facilitate, and coordinate effective environmental management and protection, and basically sustainable use of our natural resources here in Guyana. How do we implement this broad and, of course, as you rightly said, a very, very important mandate? We basically have three main functions here. There are other functions, but the three main functions from a regulatory perspective is our environmental authorization process, and that is basically our permitting. So any development activity, and in the Act provides a Schedule 4, a list of activities, like your mining, your oil and gas, your forestry, and any other project which may have significant impact on the environment. They are required to apply for an environmental permit at the EPA. And then we go through our process of screening that application for environmental impacts, requiring an EIA or not, to inform our decision. And we set terms and conditions when we decide to approve a project via an environmental permit. Then, after your environmental permitting is issued, we have what you call your compliance. So which is a very important aspect. So it's you're issuing the permit, but then following up and ensuring that the developer who are permittee, they're in adherence and they're meeting their obligations as provided for in the environmental permit issue. And then the third aspect is our response to reports of pollution, or what we call complaints. So across the country, and this is a very, very important topic and hot topic, a lot of persons can associate with this. We have several complaints across the coast, particularly the coastal areas, looking at air pollution from furniture manufacturing, from spray painting shops, and so on. So we have a dedicated unit that address complaints and investigate complaints and recommend enforcement actions. So those are the three main functions of the EPA at this point in time, apart from the other things. And of course, our education and awareness programs that cross-cut all these factors.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Permit me now to welcome the other panelists, Mr. Walton Ryan, who is the Solid Waste Management Director of the Mayor and City Council of Georgetown. Walter, good evening and welcome to Coast to Coast for the second time.
Good evening. Sorry to be late.
Oh, well, you're not late really by Guyana terms, only 7 minutes.
Good to see you, Walter.
I see you, brother. See you, brother.
Well, I must let you know, Cameron, that it was Walter who was instrumental in giving me the contact and trying to approach you to ensure that you come on the program. And I want to apologize to our viewers and listeners that we could not have done the program 2 weeks ago. I made a public apology, but I'm happy that we're doing it here now this afternoon. Walter, I will get to you shortly, or let me just ask you, Walter, since we last spoke, what developments have there been? I do know two things that I've been following is that we spoke about placing receptacles, garbage receptacles within the city of Georgetown and other areas, well, within the area. And then I know that you've had a donation, one donation, I'm not certain of others. But what has been the new development since then? And of course, before you go into that, I have seen that you and your department has been very active in enforcing the non-littering campaign. I have no sympathy for people who would want to continue to litter our streets and dump their refuse indiscriminately. And today I read a comment in which a good friend of mine was suggesting that maybe you should have gone easy on the homeless person and double up the fine for the store owner. It's sad, but I like how you replied, the law is the law, no littering. Littering is littering. Anyhow, give us an update on what has transpired since our last program.
All right, so what would have occurred, and this was since after His Excellency would have come out and have the cleanup in Georgetown. And I'm very happy that it is in a springboard to other parts of the country, which I'm very, very happy about. So what would have happened, yes, you talk about the donations of receptacles. We received that. We are due to receive some more shortly. And we're going to place the bins in the commercial area, Camarage, the commercial district, because as you're aware, Georgetown basically is the hub for all businesses. And the commercial area plays a critical part where we have a lot of people traversing the city on a daily basis for business, for work, and for shopping also. So we are going to place those bins as beginning from Thursday. We already placed bins in the 6 avenues. We have this is Main Street straight onto East Street. We would have placed receptacles there. Sadly, you had some amount of covers were stolen, and people were not, and basically some people are not using the bins as we desire. They are, well, prefer to throw the garbage outside of the bin. But these are challenges that you'll have. Nothing is perfect. No system is perfect. You'll continue to have those, but you'll continue to have improvement. And enforcement, the anti-littering campaign that we have. What I'm very happy to report that from before His Excellency would have started this campaign, and we start enforcing the regulations that is, as Camarade would rightly said, is always, although is under the EPA umbrella, it's a regulation for the country, which is true. So since we start enforcing that, you would have seen a reduction in the commercial district for open dumping by some 95%, right? All the sites, 34 sites we would have cleaned under that 2 days, just the 2 days, we would have cleaned 34 sites. None of those sites would have attracted people to dump. And again, I'm very happy about that. And other areas that we didn't get to touch on those sites, we would have cleaned, and people are, or they stop. Well, they stop this dirty behavior of littering, which I'm very, very happy for. It doesn't mean that we're going to slack up on enforcement. We have taken it now to the bus park, the car parks, and along the vendors, where the vendors are dwelling, like in front of Starbucks Market, in front of Border Market, inside the market also, right? Because we really want to stamp out this scourge in our society about littering. And people must understand that we are the city. We always talk about we're cash shop, but the city is expending close to $1 million a week in the commercial area for a contractor to remove garbage. So there was absolutely no excuse for you to litter. Honestly, I really can't understand it. I never understood it because the trucks, they have a schedule, they pass timely. So there is no excuse. It's just a matter of some of our brothers and sisters are lazy, and they create a nice employment for our homeless brothers and sisters who are just going to take the garbage. Like this morning, today we arrested one guy. So I took the homeless guy to inside his premises and I asked him if he knows him. He said yes. I said, did you give him garbage? He said yes. I said, where did you expect him to take a garbage? Right? He's a homeless guy. Where did you expect him to take? He said, oh, he's supposed to take it to Starbucks Market. This is on Camp Street, you know. So the homeless guy is supposed to take it till the Starbucks Market. I said, that's not where he take. He took it right in Charlotte Street. So both parties were arrested. So we have seen favorable results, and it will continue. His Excellency would have shared, Kem Kemaraji would know that His Excellency would have shared an anti-littering slogan on his Facebook page, which we have adopted. We have created so far 5,000 bumper stickers that we're going to give out free, of course. We're also trying to have big signboards in the city and outside of Georgetown too, of these signboards across, so people can get the message of littering. There is no place of littering in a society.
So Nazim, if I can jump in here.
Come in.
Yeah, I must congratulate Walter for his efforts, and especially the fact that everybody else are on board. The police are on board. The public is on board to report these things. And the key thing is that the police are now arresting. And of course, the city police as well.
Yeah, they're now enforcing unselectively. They're now enforcing across the board. No fear, no fear and favors.
Right. I want to give a little history on this, though, and Walter will think. Prior in 2013, 2014, the litter regulations which we drafted and we promulgated, and we actually started the Litter Wardens program in 2014, and where we had our staff actually going out there, specifically hired staff called Litter Wardens that were enforcing these regulations, dealing with the minibuses, ensuring that they have receptacles. We were addressing in partnership with Walton Ryan and the others on cleaning up these dump sites. But somehow over the years, things changed. And only recently, again, with His Excellency's drive, we are now bringing that back here at the EPA to ensure. And we started, in fact, just before the president went on his cleaning campaign, we engaged Walton Ryan and we engaged the NDC. So all the municipalities, and let them know that the litter prevention regulations, they have the authority to enforce these regulations. The police, the GGMC, the Forestry Commission, the staff of the EPA, and all the local authorities, they have the authority to enforce these acts. This thing can't be done by one man or one unit. It has to be the entire
collective effort. Must be a collective effort. As you're on the floor right now, Cameron, I just want to read a question that is from someone named Malvern Cooley. Question for the EPA. Why in the upper quarantine persons' car drivers are using PA system with loudspeakers to do commercial announcements? I believe this is noise nuisance because it's done all hours. This has been, I don't know if it comes under the purview of the EPA, but this has been continuing for the longest while. And while I didn't plan to see if you can address that, but as I see this comment, can you talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. And I know it's a very, very pertinent issue right now. And of course, it's in the media. We have noise regulations, and the noise regulations provide for us to regulate anybody with loudspeakers,
decibel levels,
so on, to regulate them. So over the years, we've been granting permit to these, whether it's these public announce system, But unfortunately, our permits were all standard. And the intention, of course, was not to create a nuisance. Unfortunately, you know how Guyanese are. They go above and beyond what their permits are. And so right now, actually, we're the office in WIM, and I spoke with the officers there. I only recently returned to the agency in July of 2021, last year. And so this matter came to my attention now. And so we're looking at means of how, I mean, not to stop or take bread out of people's mouth, but to ensure that they have certain things that we can put in place. So for example, reducing the days that they operate, looking at the speaker system itself so that they don't have too big a speaker and blasting loudly, looking at the timing of the day that they need to do these things. Right. So what our plan is to engage all the stakeholders in that area, including the police, and have us come to a set of guidelines that everybody can adhere to and benefit from. So rest assured, people of Region 6, we are addressing the matter.
Great. Walter, I have observed, and I'll ask you just now to do back the schedule of collections for the city of Georgetown. But one of the things I've observed recently was I was parked at the SO service station corner in King Street, and the garbage disposal truck was there. What I saw is people from stores, their workers, they were bringing out the garbage by boxes. And as a consequence, the truck had to spend a long time there waiting until they bring the garbage. Two of my concerns were the time that the truck would have spent there could have gone to other areas. And secondly, whilst I appreciated the trucks must be in the street to do the garbage collection, they were kind of blocking the traffic for a longer period than is normally required. Can you want to address that?
All right. The collection, primarily all our collection, it occurs during the day hours. All right. It's a cat and mouse situation in terms of collection. Ideally, evening collections is better. You have less traffic. It's better on the engine of the vehicle and also in the worker because of the climate. It's the best preferred way. But what you have to take in consideration, the garbage that we collect, right? What the contractor collects, they have to take to the landfill, the exhaust sanitary landfill. And they also have an operational hours, right? They work until 8 p.m. So if you do garbage collection beginning from 6 o'clock in the night, then you have to have an extension of the exhaust sanitary landfill hours. Now, it's not a matter of just opening landfill and let the guys go and dump. You have to have excavators on board. You have to have proper lighting. You have to have security. So there's a whole lot of things that needs to put into place. Right?
Let me just come in there. All over Gary, we need security. What would you need the security for at the landfill site?
Seriously, people goes into landfill. Landfill, as you know, any landfill has methane gas being emitted, right? People be mischievous enough to go into there, and they can set the landfill on fire, right? You have to be cognizant of these things. You have a lot of mischief going on, and especially with a lot of fires recently, right? Some of them for good reason. So you have to be, and the guys going into the landfill, you don't want anybody to go in to get robbed because they will target these guys.
Yeah, right? That's true. That is true. That is true.
So it's not the conversation was done. It was when Minister Colin Crowell, who is now Minister of Housing, when he was PS, the Ministry of Local Government, we would have engaged, Cameron would remember this, right, to extend the opening hours for landfill. The landfill as itself, the road is really bad. Presently, I think when you say Jill is currently looking at it, you also have to have that road lit, right? You have to got proper lighting for that road. So a lot of things it needs to be done. In the household areas, not commercial alone. Every household right now, I don't have the data, but a lot of people are renting out in our city, renting homes, and they have vehicles. What I'm trying to say is that those vehicles, they have no facility to park those vehicles in the premises. So they use the government reserve to park. So if you can do collection at night, you have a problem because yes, the truck cannot pass into those areas. Those streets are very narrow. I'm talking about West Rumfeld, East Rumfeld, even to Kingston, Queenstown. The streets are very narrow for garbage truck and you have vehicles parked both sides. right? So there's a lot of things that has to change for the evening collection. And
But
the experience you would have had is store owners, they're supposed to have a receptacle, but what we have and what the public needs to understand is that with the influx of our neighbors, the Venezuelans, the Brazilians are coming in here to shop. What they do, they unpack take out all the packaging materials from the commodities they buy and leave it in the store. So if they're buying a shirt, they remove all the plastics and just the shirt, put in a duffel bag, and they head into the airport next. So they leave all those things that normally would be taken home and then you'll put it in your garbage is left in the store. So all of that, when the garbage truck comes, has to go in. So it'll take up some time. But I said, the cat and mouse. How do you please? If you don't go and remove the garbage, you would have a big crowd. They would litter, right? Then we'll have to find money to go and get the excavator truck to remove those. So sometimes we have to be a little bit patient and understand. Yes, we might need to do more PR on this, that educate our citizens about these constraints that we have in, but it's something that we can avoid presently.
If
I
I could, if I
appreciate
may, and I mean, okay, we're doing enforcement now, all the agencies and so on. But I think in the longer term, and we have to quickly move to that in that direction, is to the solid waste management bill. So look at solid waste management holistically, from generation, or what we call cradle, to the grave.
yes,
So it would have to be some sort of understanding of at the household level, how they and the consumer level, how they receive waste and materials and recycling and separation. And then of course, providing the option for them, because somebody can start recycling or start separating garbage, but then it ends up all in one place again. So that trickle down to the landfill, how we deal with these wastes. And it's something that perhaps we need to recommend to the policymakers to bring back in, to look at providing small entrepreneurs the opportunity to take up particular waste stock, like your tires, your PET bottles, and give them the incentives so that they can create small businesses to deal with these things. And half of their problems will be solved by that.
yeah.
You know.
Walter, somebody inboxed me, and I'm trying to see if there's any clarification. Somebody inboxed me some information this morning saying that garbage collection agency, which is national, will be implementing a recycling plant very soon in Berbice. Is there any truth in that? I don't want to say the agency's name because I don't know if it's true, but is there any plan of a recycling plant in Berbice, New Amsterdam primarily?
I'm not aware of that presently. I was talking about the small scale, like having the different facets of waste. You have the PET bottles, you have the organic waste, you have the plastics, you have the tires. So the recycling that probably is going to happen in New Amsterdam. I'm not sure. I wasn't given any information on that. Probably is one of the fastest they will be taken out. But if you would listen to Honorable AG in his budget presentation, he would have mentioned the solid waste management bill of 2007. It's slated to be debated this year. So it's back on the cards, and that bill is very concise, it's timely. If we can get that bill passed in our parliament and implemented, it would be wonderful for Guyana, right? Because it speaks about everything. It speaks about the household, separation of waste, you're having facilities to take care of it. So it's a wide array, and I agree with you. The enforcement is one, but we need to move away sooner or later from the enforcement, and hopefully behavior change, because people will change behavior. But we need to have avenues. We need to have avenues for the separation of waste and taking those separated waste and creating businesses opportunities. Because it's only in Guyana and some other countries in the Caribbean, we throw away every single thing, And what we're doing every single day, we're throwing out money. We're throwing out money. When I was in Japan in 2015, Japan threw away absolutely nothing, zero. Everything, they have a market value for, everything has a use, and the separation of waste is done at household. The housewives and the children do the separation of waste there. And you have specific days where these wastes are collected, right? So we'll move to that once we get the solid waste management bill passed in Parliament, sent it to by His Excellency, it will be good for you.
Great. I just want to acknowledge I see Honorable Member of Parliament B. Shearer Matura is locked in, and my friend Robin Adrian, along with the program director, who is directing the program. Dabia Riaz is directing the program, not from Indiana, but he's directing the program. Talking about that, I just want to quickly advise residents, especially in the Herstelling Little Diamond area. The Herstelling Little Diamond NDC garbage collection schedule is as follows. Mondays, Little Diamond Square and Prospect. Tuesdays, Covent Garden and Bougainvillea Park. Wednesdays, Herstelling and Farm Squatting area. Thursdays, Herstelling, First Street and the Public Road. And on Fridays, Coast2Coast Scheme, Somerset Court, Covent Garden School, Herstelling Health Center. The Herstelling NDC, the Herstelling Little Diamond NDC, urges all citizens to dispose of their garbage effectively and properly and not to litter our communities. In fact, that's a message to all Guyanese, but we're talking about this particular area. I want to come back to Kemaraj for a little bit. Kemaraj, what are the main concerns of the EP as we speak now?
Okay, concerns about the environmental. Sorry, there was a feedback. Yeah. When you say concern, you're probably referring to the key environmental issues.
Yes.
That are of concern, right?
Yeah.
But clearly, of course, solid waste management is a significant issue, and it has been the bone for the agency since our inception, and that is about. So I'm glad that at least we are making some efforts. So now we've tried in the past, and as I said, the only way we can address this issue is from a combined everybody hands on deck, hands to the plow. And the key thing that ignorance of the law is no excuse, right? And so everybody has a role to play. But of course, government agencies and like the municipalities as well, they have to ensure that facilities are in place where persons can place their garbage. And of course, regular collection. And I have a bone with Mr. Narayan on this. And as well as daily sweeping of our streets and cleaning of our streets. And I know he's making efforts in that. So apart from solid waste, it is of course our rivers being impacted from various activities. If you look over the years, for example, certain parts of the Essequibo River or the Cuyuni River are heavily turbid from mining activities and other activities. And in fact,
I was coming to that because I was going to ask you now, how does the EPA work and reduce air pollution and improve access to clean and safe water?
Right. Good. So before I go to the water, address the water, I just want to let you know in terms of
when I'm talking air pollution, I'm also including vehicular gases and things like that. Absolutely. And so on.
Yeah. So across the board. So recently we have established remote real-time monitoring capabilities, and we're building upon it. And one of those capabilities is monitoring air quality. And we've set up a remote air quality meter at our office in WIM in Region 6 and one here in the agency. So we can actually see real time what is the quality of the air or what an air quality index is. And in fact, so far, the last 2-3 weeks, our air quality has remained very, very good. Funny enough, during the last, over the weekend when they had the rain and the cloudy, cover, they tend to went over a little bit over not being good, to moderate. But all I'm saying is that our air quality is pretty good. But at specific locations, like for example, your rice mills, your furniture factories and so on, that there may be emissions that are affecting your neighbors and those kind of things. So that is an issue that we have to deal with, right? And in fact, our complaints department is now, over the years, there have been some lag in responding and investigating those matters. The dedicated complaints unit that we've recently put back in place, they're now making a concerted effort to address those issues, to investigate and to apply the law. Again, the issue of not taking bread out of people's mouth, but we want to make sure that you do not create a nuisance. So those activities, we work with you to bring you into compliance, to show you how you can improve and reduce impacts to the environment. And if and only if you don't comply, then we have to shut you down, right? Now, in terms of the water quality issues related to mining and other industrial activity, for the mining, we're working in collaboration with the Ghana Geology and Mines Commission to start at the level of these small scale mining operations to help them to improve their operations, to reduce their impacts, so avoiding discharging directly into rivers and streams, their tailings and stuff like that. The large scale mines are pretty much in compliance and they have to receive permits and we monitor them on a regular basis. But our partnership with GGMC needs to be strengthened for us to focus on the small scale mining activities. And of course, right here in Demerara River, a lot of the industrial activities from your beverage to other things, and even from households, because if you look, where does your toilet waste go? Straight into the drain. Where does it go? Straight into the Demerara River or something else. You know, so all these things we are now working in partnership, and we have to do it again with the other agencies to help them and the private sector to help them to understand, for them to put measures in place so that we can move to that stage where we have a pollution-free environment.
Great, because only a little while back, I think it was last week or the week before, I saw a video of some guys with a truck dumping garbage in the Coca somewhere at West Demerara. I think it's Good Fortune. And that, other than what is going to happen there for blockage and things like that, that's serious pollution issues there again. But like Walter said, I think since the campaign has been initiated by His Excellency, many more Guyanese have become aware of the importance of effective and proper waste disposal, solid waste disposal. Walter, what is the integrated solid management like in terms of segregation, transfer, sorting, and treatment recovery?
Well, as I said, it's catered for in the solid waste management bill. Right, the integrated solid waste management strategy is important for managing solid waste management, because basically what we are doing right now, we are taking mixed waste, collecting mixed waste, and taking to landfill and bury. And that basically, that also has its environmental impact and challenges if not managed properly. Right, so the integrated solid waste management strategy is basically dealing with separating of waste from the source. It must be done at the source. From a household level, from a school level, from an office level, waste must be sorted, separated. You must have individualized bins to put those type of waste in, right? And why we can't do that right now, because as Camarade was saying, you don't have any facility in Guyana that you can take your PET bottles now to, and they can shred it or bale it and export it. Or you PET bottles could also be used into road making. PET bottles can be used into making ties. There's so many value for these waste that we throw out, right? I would have looked at many interests from investors who want to come and do same thing like what I'm saying, PET bottle recovery or organic waste. But because the costs, the biggest challenges for an investor is the cost for collection. To collect that waste, and you have in Georgetown right now, and with the oil and gas boom that we're in right now, land space is not very easy accessible in Georgetown. So with an entrepreneur setting up, for example, a waste energy plant, right, that's taken all the waste combined and converting it to energy, right, is a technology that's been across the world. We don't have any site that we could identify in Georgetown to have a collection site. If you understand what I'm saying. Yes. Garbage trucks can go to these sites, offload, and they go back to their respective area. Then the very next morning, these waste from these collected sites are taken to the site to do the waste energy plant, right? Even if you set up a waste energy plant at Higgsboro Sanitary Landfill, that's only taken up region 4 garbage, some of region 3, and some other outlying areas. We have the whole again waste to think. Georgetown waste alone cannot sustain a waste energy plant. Although it might look a lot, it cannot. sustain a waste energy plant, who want to do commercial. When I say commercial, who can take that energy and sell it to the national grid, sell it to GPL. We don't have sufficient waste in Georgetown to sustain that. So you'll need the waste across the country, and you must have collection sites at these various areas inside the outside the country to collect that waste. That is a challenge, right?
So it's more like a logistical financial issue here. So to make it
It is.
financially feasible.
The cost for collection is high, and we at the Georgia municipality, we are paying $80 million a month to 3 garbage contractors to collect garbage in the city. This is Georgia alone. That doesn't mean that we collect 100% garbage, because as you see, since our campaign, you have a lot of people littering, right? So you will collect about 75% of the waste with an $80 million cost. You understand what I'm saying? So the cost to collect that waste is expensive. Unless there's subsidy going to happen, give to the entrepreneur, I don't see it happening wholly. However, what Ms. Parson was talking about, small entrepreneur, right? We, for example, PET bottle, a beverage container coming into this country. They pay to the government again an environmental tax, right? Which is $10 for every bottle coming into the country. Okay, so if that, and a percentage of that environmental tax can go towards that entrepreneur as a subsidy towards his operation, because he has to collect these waste anyhow, that can go very far for his sustainability, right? So let us go step by step. Let us get the solid waste management bill passed, and after the solid waste management bill passed, it speaks about separation of waste, opening avenues for entrepreneurs, and the government will have to give some amount of tax relief for the equipment to come in and stuff like that. But let us go to the solid waste management bill passing first, right? We don't, I remember, and Cameron, you remember this, CCI, Caribbean Containers Inc. They at one time were collecting cardboard, corrugated cardboards.
Yes.
And recycling it, right? The reason why they had to curtail the operation, the same thing I'm talking about, the cost to collect those corrugated cardboards. Imagine the cost to collect those corrugated cardboards were more expensive than the importing corrugated cardboards from Suriname. And to sustain their operation, they had to go to that route to import corrugated cardboard out of Suriname, right? So the cost for collection is expensive. And that is what I'm thinking is a deterrent for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Okay, I'm happy that you made that very clearly, because that has been burning questions that people are asking. You see, the thing is that we try to liken ourselves to industrialized countries like the US, and we would say why we can't do this, like what the US is doing. People would pack up their bottles and their PET bottles and take it to a particular depot and things like that. But sometimes we make these comments without understanding the logistics that are involved, and I'm happy that you clear that up. Let me just pay a compliment to NAFICO with 17 branches nationwide, life, fire, and motor and general insurance, and the Giffland Mall and the Perico Mall branches are open on Sundays from 12 noon to 7 p.m. That is NAFICO with 17 branches nationwide. They're proud to be associated with this program. Kamraj, how does the EPA enhance joint preparedness for environmental disasters or response?
Okay, thank you. A very good question. So there are 3 factors. At the agency itself, we recently put in place a dedicated emergency response unit. And so we have a cadre of persons here who are trained to respond to any your typical, your oil spills, your fire, your chemical spills, and so on. So we have a system in place. If there is a report, it comes to me, I know who I can call within the agency, and they and their team can get together quickly and have a first cut at visiting the location and do an inspection and report what's happening. And of course, from that to engage the national, the CDC, the Civil Defense Commission, And I can speak more from an oil spill preparedness aspect. There's a national oil spill contingency plan, and there are several agencies within that plan with specific responsibilities. For example, the Guyana Energy Agency has the responsibility to lead oil spills on land, and the MARAD to lead oil spills in the marine environment. And the EPA plays a cross-cutting role along with the CDC to provide initial assessments and stuff like that. So that's the national level and within the agency itself. Where spills are, we put the onus mainly on the polluter. So if it's a industrial plant that spill chemical, they have the responsibility to ensure that they respond, clean up, and prevent any harm. And of course, if there are any actions to be taken to follow up in terms of for the cleanup, for fines, and those kind of things. I can give you, in terms of the large-scale oil producers, they have to prepare and submit to us before we grant an approval an oil spill response plan. And that is meeting international best practice. So that's in a nutshell of how we are preparing in terms of ensuring that we have a system in place for responding to contingencies.
Does the EPA play a role in building and construction? And I'm particularly referencing here the proposal for the new Demara Harbor Bridge. What kind of involvement does the EPA have in that kind of thing?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, is one of our functions. Any development activities, whether it's from government or it's private sector, where it falls into the Schedule 4 of the Act, whether it's mining, forestry, or something else. And the other thing is where there may be significant impact, they apply for an environmental authorization. And the example that you mentioned, the bridge, the public works in this case, they apply to the agency for an environmental authorization. And we would have screened that application and determined, whether we should go ahead and grant an approval on that. So so what happens in between is that our officers, again, qualified trained individuals, part of their screening and decision making and recommendation, they assess from their training, they go on the ground, assess what are the potential impacts of certain type of things, your construction, your road, your traffic, and predict what might be the impacts from these activities. And of course, also engaging the residents and people in nearby communities, and take all that into consideration and the designs and so on that provided to us, and to look at it from a holistic perspective and determine whether this activity will have significant impact or not. All right, and then we decide how we proceed. If there's significant possibility for significant impacts, then we require a further detailed study or analysis, which is an environmental impact assessment. All right, and then that will go through a significant studies and testing and what's not, and provide a report with recommendations to the agency to inform its decision.
Thank you. That has been very illuminating. Jordan and Amelia ready to work to the Northeast Grove, East Van Bimrara, 610-2079. Surfacing, repairs, recurring, rebuilding to vehicular and industrial radiators. Are very concerned and urges all Guyanese to bin it because it's the right thing to do. Walter, I don't know if the last program we touched on this, but I'm not sure if I can remember, but it would not hurt us to go back on this. What are the current executive orders on waste management within your purview?
Well, as I said, the last time we spoke about this, it's the one regulation that we are using in the Guyana Police Force is using the city constable, city police are using is the EPA lit regulation of 2030. As I said before, in the Council, Municipal and District Council Act, Chapter 2801, littering is covered there on the scavenging and cleansing city bylaws. The fines there is minimum of $10,000, however. All right. Council has before Honorable Minister Nigel Darmalal a littering bylaw, a new littering bylaw, and it speaks about fines. Rather than taking the offender once found guilty and you have sufficient evidence, they pay the fine directly to the municipality. And for good reason, because it will be the municipality's responsibility to go and clean up the mess that was made by the polluter, right? So why not have the money at the council disposal? Because like all the portions that we have taken to the court so far, and the money goes to the consolidated fund, council now, based on the amount of cases that we have put up, we'll have to write central government asking for percentage from this consolidated fund to offset our expenses. But that process will be done. So the regulation that what you speak about is the EPA's the regulation of 2013 that is being used across the board right now by all our partners. And Kembat would have talked about the Ghana Police Force, which we are extremely happy about, right? You spoke about this guy who was dumping at some part of Puerto Rico. Happy to report they were both arrested. The driver would have absconded to further down Escobar. He was arrested also. So once these videos are provided by the citizen of Ghana across not only Georgetown, they are sent to my phone. They are sent to, I know Minister Nigel Damral's phone is blowing up too. He's receiving those images. Once we authenticate and we have sufficient evidence, we forward that to the Ghana Police Force. And they act immediately, right? And everybody, there is nobody that a video or a picture has surfaced and they haven't been caught and face the consequences, right?
And
So it's something that has catch on and catch on across the country, right?
And
so everybody's using the little regulation of 2030.
can you repeat the number, your number that you can send to, or any other number that you can send images or responses to?
I think most people know my number by now. Anyway, the number is 623-5010. It's not the ideal thing. Yeah, it's not the ideal thing to do because as I mentioned in the last program.
Well, this is why I asked if you could have set up a specific another number.
So the meeting with our telecommunication partners is slated for Thursday of this week, and this is GT&T, Digicel, eNetworks, to have them sponsor 2 or 3 lines that we can have open for littering and reporting. The CCTV cameras across the country, across Georgetown, I am happy that the Ghana Police Force have given me access to that. Once we found new garbage was dumped, like for example, if I traverse the city tonight, later on tonight, and I see garbage dump, say at Lighton North Road, we have cameras around those vicinity. I can quickly ask for footage between a period. I will get those footages. We find those perpetrators and we're going to arrest them, right? So that collaborative effort was lacking in the past, but now everybody is on board. And it's not only isolated to Georgetown, it's across the country.
Now, Mr. Hussein, if I can ask Walter a question.
Go ahead. Feel free.
Walter, I know, and as I said, I want to reiterate and applaud you for leading this. But my concern, though, is your capacity in terms of the manpower to patrol and what's not. Do you have that manpower? I mean, you alone can't do it. Otherwise, you would not be at home.
He's already almost not at home.
No, what has happened is, as I said, the Ghana Police Force has partnered with us. Our colleagues from the Ghana Defense Force are also partnered with us, right? Civil society is partnered with us. So everybody is on the lookout. You may have 2 or 3 or 5 of them might slip through the crack, but they won't be slipping through for long. The capacity concept department, we have officers that we are going out specific areas, and we are regulating our time because they are looking out for our vehicles now, right? So we regulating our hours. We are doing campaigns at evenings, during the day, all hours of the day. The Ghana Police Force are also doing the same because they are arresting people too. They had a guy dumping a crate at Meadowbank Wharf, and they brought him to us to prosecute him through our court system. So, I mean, I'm very thankful for everybody, all hands are deck. In terms of capacity, human resource, there is no limit to human resource. Always we want more persons, but that also comes with a cost. right? So far it's working well. As I said, from a month ago, 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks ago, we started this thing. We have seen significantly about 95% reduction in litter in open dumping, and it can only get improved better, right? The receptacles we're gonna put to give a cushion towards the collection system, so extra garbage can go into that. I'm still working along with all agencies to have. I was recently in Movie Town, and you have these guppy bins, which are more robust for external use. I'm very happy that I found it locally. We're gonna have the private sector, which again, let me take the opportunity to thank the private sector of Guyana. They are fully committed toward this process, and there wasn't a request that I have sought donation for that they have denied me so far. Yes, so we are moving towards a cleaner city, but to sustain this, we need to have the solid waste management bill enacted in Parliament quickly, so we can have those waste separated. Because I'm an advocate that if we take the organic, and you spoke just now about the EIA, Environmental Impact Assessment, from the EPA. Very soon, I think by not this week, probably next week, I'll have a meeting with Cameraj. I have a company out of England who is very, very interested in taking our organic waste, and as a pilot for now, but it will remain in the solid waste management compound. Cameraj is basically taking the organic component from the municipal markets and converting to energy to power the solid waste management building, to power mechanical workshop, to power the school next door, which will be beneficial for the school next door. And they recently have a computer lab. So the logistics is being working out right now. I have to go to EPA and we have to discuss it in detail. Once we have that blessings, it's a technology that's been all over Europe, and it's very important for Guyana. If you take the organic component out of our waste stream, right, which is 55% of our waste, if you take that, what that does is that our cost for collection will reduce significantly. No longer do we have to go and collect waste from household every week or in the commercial one time a day, because the organic waste is the one that very quickly deteriorates, breed worms, gives out the odor, and you have leachate, and that is awful for a lot of people. Don't want that kind of smell in the bin. Take that away, and we can convert it to energy or compost. Our problem is about 80% fixed in the city.
Excellent, thank you. I just like to acknowledge former Ghana national player Hemrat Shatagoon, who's in the US now, is locked in. My sister-in-law is in Philadelphia, Camille Hussein, Vinod Bisram from the Angels Caribbean Band, and the phenomenal Mr. Daniel Singh, media consultant, among other things, who are locked in. Thank you very much, guys. That brings me to a point that I would ask Walter for your blessings and we can discuss this. I would love to initiate a program that can have role models in Guyana, sports personalities, media people, and others to get involved by sending endorsements and messages about effective waste management in Guyana. I think it's going to create an impact, and it's going to be something that can work. If I'll have a chat with you later about this, and we can work that out. I just want to acknowledge my sponsor, Dinesh Auto Spares at 41 Rock Street, between Cummings and Light Street, because they've just got a new shipment of auto body and pre-owned engine parts for all makes of vehicles, complete engines, transmissions, gearboxes, starters, alternators, and more. And you can dial 231-9626 or 623-7592 for inquiries. That is Dinesh Auto Spares and Auto Spares at 41 Rock Street. Now, Cameraj, I know that we have a pesticide and toxic chemicals control board under the purview of the Ministry of Agriculture. That is an on report. But what role does the EPA play, and are they in collaboration with the Toxic Chemicals and Control Board? One of the things, I make mention of this because I want people to know something. I am also the CEO and the president of Suicide and Violence Eradication in Guyana. And we've been doing, not since the advent of COVID, we've been doing mental health outreaches and workshops all across Guyana. And in Essequibo, I was told at one of the workshops that child, if that child can reach the counter level, they can get dangerous poisons, toxic chemicals to buy. I do know that we have a law about it and that people would have to provide ID and sign the book and things like that. What role does the EPA play, if at all, and or are you in collaboration with the Pesticides and Toxic Chemical Controls Board?
Yeah, very good. In fact, the EPA is on the Pesticide and Toxic Chemical Board. And in fact, that is yours truly. I'm actually on the board itself. So we definitely collaborate and coordinate with the Pesticide Toxic Chemical Board and the registrar. And we support them in terms of ensuring, providing support from an environmental authorization and technical perspective as well for the handling, of course, the importation, the handling, the transportation, and storage. Where industries are concerned, we would tend to pay a much more greater attention and in that regard. But we are allowing and working with the pesticide board. That's their prerogative, their mandate for them to deal with these shops, for example, that are retailing chemicals and agrochemicals and so on. So that's their jurisdiction. We provide and lend support in terms of being on the board and giving guidance on those things. And if necessary, for joint inspections and so on. And of course, joint enforcement where necessary.
Thank you very much. Danzy's Fashion Gallery at Chapel Street, Strand, New Amsterdam, and their auto sales at 238, number 2 Village East, Canty Beats. Call or WhatsApp Ron on 645-2600. They have in stock now X-Trail, Mazda Accela, Toyota Fielder, Nissan Sliffy, pickup trucks, Hiace Super GI, Mitsubishi Canter dump trucks, and other passenger vehicles with financing available. That's Dancy's Fashion Gallery and auto sales, and their number is 645-2600. Gentlemen, I know that you've taken time off from your busy schedules, either personally or for work. I know Kemraj is still in office. I see Walter's having a beautiful blind behind him, so I think a backdrop, so I think he's also in office. I don't want to go like we did the last program, 2 hours, because I have another commitment too. So I will ask Kemraj first to do a wrap up, take as much time as you want, and give us any overview of any other activities that the EPA is concerned with. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much again for inviting me. Since the key thing here or key topic was solid waste management, and of course environment is part of that. The important thing here is I want to emphasize is that, as I mentioned, the partnership for all the agencies, the municipalities, the NDCs, and the agencies, of course, coming together and using the environmental protection litter prevention regulations and the act itself to enforce the law as therein. So avoiding littering in a public place, littering in a minibuses or a vehicle, and the aspect of EPA working and strengthening our relations with the NDC and providing the capacity and the training. Like we have done, we're working with Mr. Walter Ryan and the municipality in this. And in fact, over the last 2 months, we've gone to each and every NDC across the region in partnership with local government and providing the training on the litter prevention regulations and giving them the authority to enforce under those regulations. So the key thing here is partnership. And I want to reemphasize the aspect that whilst we're moving the solid waste management bill to an act and to maybe a solid waste management authority, we will still not solve the issue. And that is where the link where partnership and strategic thinking is required in terms of putting a plan, a strategy in place to implement the act or the bill when it comes into force. So from your separation and managing and how households manage their waste to the act from cradle to grave and how we dispose of them finally. whether we use a combination of recycling, turning garbage into monies. And I want to remember this. Walter was talking. There was proposals led by the GEA about using, for example, the rice mills and the sawdust. So the rice husk and the sawdust waste, where they're concentrated to set up small waste to energy plants. And that is something perhaps we, as the government is going in terms of the expanded LCDS to natural gas, a combination of hydro and so on, whilst we wean ourselves of heavy fuel oil, this can be part of the mix in terms of our energy as we go along. So all in all, but from the agency perspective, from the complaints, I want to use this opportunity to address the matters in Berbice and noise from pollution in terms of the furniture factories and spray painting shops. We are taking our stringent efforts and strategic efforts to address them. So we'll be coming to you. We're not big as yet, but rest assured, we're coming and we're hearing you, and we want to address these problems and to reduce the nuisance. And of course, that is affecting from these pollutants affecting our health and so on. So that is my commitment to you. I will work towards ensuring a healthy environment and a healthy population for Guyana.
Thank you very much, Kemaraj. I'll come back to you for something else. Walter, your remarks? Oh, before your remarks, Walter, one of the things that somebody inboxed me this morning is how do we police the men, especially who would stand next to vehicles, lampposts, and other things and urinate? I know it has a social impact, but it also has a refuse, a waste management impact. How do we enforce that? Do we have any plans to look at those issues? And whilst I've been hearing you always saying that it's a touch and go situation and you got some compromises and so on, you have any, in your conclusion, you have anything to say about that?
Well,
But before you answer that, one of the things that we may have to take into consideration is that we may have to set up, if not portable, but urination spots across the city and in the country and other areas and so on. Because being an act of nature, it is sometimes very difficult, especially for older people, to keep in that urine for the longest possible time, and taking into consideration the kind of traffic that we have right now and things like that. But go ahead in your final remarks.
okay, so it's a very important question. It's something that we would have received a lot of complaints about. And if you go back, as I said in the last program, I really love history. I like to read a lot. Georgetown in the 60s and the 70s, there were public restrooms, right?
Yes.
You had one in Michael Street, you had one next to Georgetown Hospital. You had a lot of public restrooms. For reasons that I still can't comprehend, they were not maintained and they do away with them, right? So to go after, it is an offense, by the way. It is an offense, it's indecent exposure, and you can be
Offense,
charged.
and it's offensive as well.
Let me quote this. Sorry, actually, litter. Sorry, Walter. Litter is defined as any solid or liquid material or combination thereof. And that's in the litter prevention regulation. Sorry.
Great. No, thank you. Thank you. I'm happy that you brought that up.
Extended towards that part of litter as yet, because we really don't have any public facilities for urinal, and businesses who are allowing people to go in there, you have to buy something from there, right? So we have some prominent companies, you cannot use the restroom unless you purchase something from there. So the entrepreneur avenue is available to people who want to rent these portable toilets. The council will give it fiat, right? In certain selected points in the city, you can have these facilities, and you can charge a small fee, right? We won't regulate what you must charge, but something that would be affordable, right? Number one is for this point, number two is for that. you can charge that, and you can have people from unemployed people setting up like that, because we have a lot of companies have these facilities, the portable restrooms. So an entrepreneur, somebody who's listening now, who wants to do a business, they can find out what's the cost to rent one of these things per day to have it clean a day. They can approach the council and say, look, I identify Starbucks market here, I want to put it there. Could we get that spot? The council will examine it and give you a fiat, right? So once we have that, then we can go after these people, because to be honest with you, it's hard. It's a nuisance, but I haven't extended to that part yet, right? We will have to very soon, because Haxalal is a restaurant that's been there for a long time. They stopped littering there now, because and that they've been littering about 15 years. They've been littering there. Throughout this campaign, people have stopped littering, but still you have the minibus operators, the conductors are using lampposts and do what they have to do, right? That smell now is affecting patrons going to the restaurant and to the commuters in minibuses. So sometimes we have to look at, I'll give it some thought and we'll have to deal with it, right? But having an extent to that. We spoke about role models and sports personality partnering with us to have these messages, right? Okay, I don't know if you have seen it. I mentioned it just now. If you can see it.
Yeah, Guyana is we.
Guyana
Do
is
the
we
right
own.
thing, stop littering. Guyana is we own.
One Guyana.
Do the right thing, stop littering.
This was endorsed by His Excellency, and it's a campaign that we have launched, and we are moving to have it on signboards across the country. So we welcome the personalities. Very soon you're going to have cabinet members and private sector people giving out a 1-minute message on video, advocating for us to stop this behavior of littering, right? In some form of water, they're going to give a message, a very short, brief message. It will extend it to anybody who would like to come on board. Right now, I have 2 companies that we're working on who are doing the videos, and it's pro bono. For now, they're not charging us, right? So I'm very happy. So you need to get in. I also will be contacting some prominent members of society who can be an inspiration to people to stop littering, right?
Yeah,
so
that's,
have
that's
these
an
messages.
excellent. That's an
Have
excellent
these
initiative.
messages, right? I would have started off it with a, I think it was started a second video that was shared.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
it will go across to everybody to pitch in, right? And this is not something new. When we would have launched this in 2014 under the EPA, the EPA would have taken the mantle and they would have done something similar. They would have done those messages, and I think the government, the president at that time would have endorsed it and give a message. The private sector would have come. So it's something that we're going to do back again, right?
Well,
So
it's a very excellent initiative, and I'd like to let you know that I would use all of my media connections and our broadcast partners who are globally within the diaspora to ensure that we can effectuate those messages. As I said earlier, I will convene a meeting with you that we can discuss off here sometime very soon with some proposals, and we can see how we can work on that. Continue, sorry.
the thing that what I'm very happy about, and when I said that it has catch on, it's catch on towards you have a local musician, right? You know the person by the name of Mystic?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Romeo?
Yeah, Mystic, the boy from Blackbush Puller.
Yeah, he contacted
Kulibai.
me from
Kulibai dance.
he contacted me from Tel there, and he sent 2 jingles, right? Against pro bono, advocating for stop littering. So it's something that we're working on to have a jingle that can play and everybody can. It's something that will be catchy, because we can't stop here arresting. It is not my intention. It's not our intention to go and arrest people. What we want is a paradigm shift. This behavior of littering must stop, and we must advocate for a clean city, right? And tourism will be an impactful sector in our country going forward, and we all have a part to play, right? So it's not my intention. I wake up every morning and say, okay, fine, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to arrest 15, 20 people. No. I wish if tomorrow and continue for the next 10, 15 years, nobody litter. Yeah. So I'm happy with all the support I'm getting across. We are getting, so I'm not me. We are getting across from White Cross sectional area. Everybody's welcome. We can sit, we can have these talks, we can have virtual meetings, and we can come up with a product that we can sell to everybody. right? My last message here this evening is that I'm very thankful for being an opportunity again to impart some amount of knowledge towards our listeners. And we know we have these ad hoc, why you shouldn't, why we can't do this, why we can't do this, why we can't do this. Everything that you thought of, we would have had conversation upon, right? But we haven't said that we have closed the door on any topic. We're open for discussion, and information needs to be shared with the public, and we need to do more of that. So I would like to encourage our citizenry, right? Do the right thing. If you see somebody littering, you can speak to them rather than taking a picture or a video and send it for them to be prosecuted. You can speak to them. Sometimes you will have right there, you have a behavior change. They will pick it up, right? You had a young woman, very small in stature, right, selling in the heart of Georgetown, and you had somebody who just leave a beverage bottle there, and she came out. She risked everything, and she had him pick it up, which was admirable.
Yep.
Right? So we had to sort of find her out and to congratulate her for that simple act. And if everybody does that in this country, we go very, very far away. Right? Speak out. Do not accept litter, man. Do not. You can't see a neighbor putting garbage outside or throwing inside the drain in front of him, and you say nothing about it. It will affect you. When it rains, you blame the NDC, you blame the municipality, you blame the government, you blame everybody. But you're not blaming the person who would have contributed towards that. To speak out. If speaking out doesn't work, pictures, videos, we're going to do the prosecution. Right? So I want everybody to get the message. So encourage your neighbor, encourage your friends, encourage your family. Please do not litter. Right? Littering has no value, absolutely no value. And do the right thing. The message is very clean. Do the Ghana is we own, do the right thing, stop littering.
I would also recommend, Walter, that we continue intermittently the cleanups, and use through volunteerism. We should continue that on a regular basis, so that at least we can still keep the environment clean, and whilst we go after the perpetrators who are littering.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's really sustainable, but I don't want to let anything. Very soon you will have something national, right? Very soon you will have something national.
I think I know where you're coming from.
So very
I have an
soon.
idea
So
too.
when that comes, we'll be all happy.
But that won't help alone. We have to do it consistently.
Yes. Yes. All right. In conclusion, gentlemen, let me give Kemraj 1 minute to wrap up, and then I'll go back to Walter for 1 minute, and then we'll shut up. Kemraj.
Wrap up again, Nazim. Okay, no
Oh,
problem.
you might just remember something. I wanted to give you 1 minute. Finally, you might even want to do a special thank you to somebody and things like that, citizens or whatever.
Yeah. Well, again, I guess from the EPA side, and one of the key things is not just apart from litter now, but from broadly what the EPA does in the oil and gas sector, in the forestry sector. As I mentioned, whilst we issue permits, that's not the primary thing. It is our strong compliance and the follow-up and ensuring our monitoring capabilities are in place. And we have just installed, and you'll see it in the media, where we have our remote capabilities. So we are here in our offices. We can see what is going on offshore. We can monitor any spills or discharges, and we can see it within 3 hours of it happening, real time. If it doesn't, if it's not reported, we can see it and we can trace it back to any facility. In fact, from this system, recently you probably would have seen in media and in Facebook, fishermen saying, say oil. And we had to launch an investigation and we couldn't find it because we didn't get the full details. But when we utilized technology and satellite imagery and we traced back the area and there was nothing. But in 2020, we found a large slick about a way off of Shell Beach, coming all in directions towards the east. And it was a vessel that was traversing our waters, coming from Venezuela or Trinidad, somewhere, that were dumping their bilge.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize it. if you go and look at marine vessels globally, and you'll see the concentration of vessels in our waters and across the globe. So every single second or minute, a vessel is passing somewhere, and they've been dumping bilge water. But because we're not out there, we can't see it. So what I'm saying is now, on the last couple of months, we have invested with the government support in remote real-time technology using satellite, using remote water quality sensors, air quality sensors to detect these things. And so that we can then take necessary action to go out.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I did not know of that, and I'm happy that you brought that out. That is a most excellent initiative, and that will be able to protect us a bit more. Walter, 1 minute. I'd given Kemraj a minute, but he spoke longer than a minute. But 1 minute to you.
No, I'll give you. Thank you very much for having me again on the show. And I would like to thank everybody who has welcomed this initiative, come on board with us, partner with us in every form and facet. And we just want to encourage everybody to be the lookout, be your brother's keeper, keep a lookout out for our country. Our country is all we have, right? And we have to keep protecting our environment, and having a cleaner environment for our future generation, right? We must leave an impact, and the impact mustn't be garbage impact, it must be a clean impact, right? So I just want to encourage people, put your garbage in the receptacles. We are going to provide receptacles along the commercial area. And as we get finances, as we get more donation, we're going to provide receptacles in the domestic area. What I'm very excited about very soon, I mentioned it also, is not only garbage collection or garbage we're dealing with, we're looking for beautification of the city. And we have two projects. One is the Lamaha Embankment Project, which is the government of Ghana. And the other one is the Jury Lane Project, which is a partnership between us and the government of Ghana. And both projects will be completed before the 23rd of February. And we'll continue to have areas earmarked towards beautification, area that our residents, our citizens can go out and relax and have clean air. Cameron spoke about clean air. Just go out there, because everybody wants to exhale and inhale fresh air. They go to the seawalls, right? But you have areas right in Georgetown that you can go and do that. If you're given the avenue, take for example, Jury Lane, you can go there. You'll be going there very soon. You can enjoy yourself with your family. You can go to the Lamaha Embankment Project in the site. You can enjoy that. So you're going to find that. And it's something that is on the government radar towards further beautifying the country. And we are all part of that. So encourage everybody to do the right thing. Stop littering. And Ghana is our own.
Thank you very much, Walter. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for a very educative discussion this evening. You've been locked into Coast to Coast Talk Back. The topic is environment and solid waste management with our panelists, Walter Ryan, Solid Waste Management Director of the Mayor and City Council of Georgetown, and Mr. Kemraj Parshuram, the Chief Executive Officer of the EPA. My technical coordinator this afternoon, as usual, is Nicholas Samaru of 2000 Graphic Studio for designing of flyers, logos, invitations, brochures, and more. 616-2514 or visit 2000 Graphic Studio on social media. My program director was W.R. Riaz. The program came to you with the kind compliments of Nalico Nafico Insurance, Dinesh Auto Spears, Jordan and Miller Radiator Works, the Hair Selling, Little Diamond NDC, and Danzi's Fashion Gallery. I would urge all those who have been locked in on Facebook to please like, tag a friend, and share the live so others can be able to get educated on the matters we discussed this evening. Gentlemen, once again, I want to thank you for accepting the invite, and thank you for being part of a very, very informative and educative discussion. I hope that at some other later dates, as we roll out other projects, that I can invite you again and that you can accept to come on board so that we can create a greater awareness. I wish you all a very pleasant Monday evening. Remind you to be safe, observe all of the COVID-19 protocols, get vaccinated and boosted if possible. But above all else, observe all of the COVID-19 protocols. And remember, Guyana is we own. Be it. Thank you very much. I'm Nazim S. Hussain saying good evening. Have a restful Monday night. Be prepared for a very productive the tomorrow. Thank you. Pranam. Salam.
Thank you. Good night.